In a forceful statement to the US House Congressional Finance Committee, Prime Minister Amor Mottley said the punishment being meted out to Barbados and the region is unfair and misplaced. She was referring to Caribbean countries being placed on various grey and black lists, leading to international banks pulling out of these territories, or what is known as de-risking.
Every citizen of the world ought to have the right to be able to have a bank account if they are to walk the streets without fear of crime, if they are to have the opportunity to save, if they are to have the opportunity to do as the capitalist system tells us we should do, to leverage our savings to be able to invest in order to grow our economy and to increase our wealth. And every country in the world ought to be able to have access to affordable banking services to fuel trade and to foster and enable remittances.
Speaking on the topic, when banks leave, the impact of de-risking on the Caribbean and strategies for ensuring financial access, she said financial institutions in the Caribbean are not the sources for what the U.S. is worried about: money laundering and financing terrorism.
Russia didn't choose the Caribbean to hide its money. Russians didn't choose the Caribbean to hide its money. They chose the metropoles. They chose London and New York and Switzerland and Luxembourg. And you only have to do as Tom Cruise told us in that famous movie, follow the money. Follow the money. Where has the money gone? It hasn't come to the Caribbean. And what we have is listings from the Financial Action Task Force that are perhaps well-intentioned, but are focused on process and form and are not focused on substantive prosecution of money laundering. That is the equivalent of saying that I'm more interested in whether you adhere to rules than in finding where the money launderers are.
Ms. Mottley, who was accompanied by Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, explained what she and the Caribbean hope to gain from appearing before the committee.
We feel that if you can pass legislation that, one, includes a right for us to respond, and two, we live in a world of real time, so that if we have improvements, then they ought to be taken in real time, rather than waiting for the next year's report in order to take account of the improvements that have been made by countries. Why? Because in that course of the year, that country can lose 5% of its economic activity, 7%, 2%, all as a result of its failure to be able to attract investment.
The Prime Minister also highlighted the millions spent by the region in trying to comply with the regulations set down by financial regulators, only to have a new set of rules applied. And in response to ranking member of the committee, Patrick McHenry, Ms. Mottley pointed to things like the new digital identification card, as well as source of funds declarations required by banks and other financial institutions, as ways that have been used to safeguard the system. Lisa Brome, CBC News.